welcome to Niner 2009. My name is Chris Sugai, one of the co-founders of Niner. Steve, the other co-founder, is off at a meeting, but I want to go over some of the new bikes that we have to show you this year. The new thing for this year is the WFO. It's 5.5 inches of travel in the rear, 5.5 inch travel in the front. It has a tapered steer tube, which is new for 29ers, and we've brought this onto two of our bikes. The RIP and the WFO will both have a tapered steer tube. It adds about 70% more stiffness to the front end steering of the bike. Also, the bike has hydroform tubes, which add stiffness and lightweight at the same time. The WFO is also the first 29er that's going to be available and compatible with a SRAM Hammerschmidt shifting system. So it's already built in. You can use a front derailleur, so the bike can use a Hammerschmidt 1, 2, 3, or 3 chain rings. The WFO will be offered with 2 different rear ends. You can get 135 spacing or 150 mil spacing. The rear dropouts are modular, so that you can replace the dropouts and run. This has got a Maxwell system on it, but you can use a QR. You can also use a roll-off hub. The frame will be available with 2 different shocks, an RP23 or the Piggyback Fox air shock. The Jet for 2009, we have this in a new color. We call it Vanna White. Again, the only major difference is the rocker is black. Same as the Jet that's been offered now. It has 3 inches of travel. It uses our CVA suspension system. One thing nice about our suspension system is that the instant center point is out front, so it allows you to be in multiple different chain rings and have the suspension still active. A lot of suspension systems point to the 32 chain ring, and the system only works well when it's in the 32 chain ring and doesn't work so well when it's on the outer chain rings. Our system has a little bit more flexibility, and then it allows you to be in different gearing, especially while you're racing. You may be in a big ring and you're hitting bumps and logs. The suspension system is still fully active when it's in the big chain ring or in the granny gear. One thing with the Jet, to keep the weight down, we have alloy pivot hardware instead of steel. These links are now forged on the top and bottom. They're extremely strong and lightweight at the same time. Down tube cable routing, so it's easier to shoulder the bike. So the big thing for Interbike 2009 this year is that Steve and I, we went ahead and redesigned the RIP from head to toe. A lot of the development work we did with the WFO, we've trickled down into the RIP, and we felt that some of the benefits that we were seeing in testing and in the FAA software with improved steering tube with the WFO, we felt we had to put on the RIP. So even though last year we got People's Choice Award with the RIP and Bike of the Year and a number of other kudos from a number of publications, we decided to change the whole bike front to rear. Again, our philosophy is if we feel that something's better, we're going to go ahead and change it. Again, so the RIP has the 1.5 steer tube, tapered steer tube. This is the Fox 120 fork with a tapered steer tube. RockShox, Fox, and Marzocchi will be producing tapered steer tubes for our RIP 9, and they'll be available shortly. The steer tube also will come, the frame will come with a reducer. If you want to use a 1 1/8 fork, it'll fit in the frame, no problem. You just have a reducer at the bottom, and you can install your older fork if you have one. Again, like the WFO, the RIP uses hydroform tubes for top and down tube for added stiffness and lighter weight. One of our other design philosophy is less parts, less problems. On the older RIP, you had 2 CNC plates with a spacer and bolts holding it together. This is now a one-piece design, so it's a lot simpler and lighter and stronger and more dependable because there's less problems that you could have with it. One thing we've realized with the advent of outboard bearings, where the bearing, moving the fulcrum point closer to the crank arm, you have less load on the bearings. And we've designed the same philosophy into the pivot bearings for the RIP, in that we've moved all the bearings to the most outboard position. This allowed us to use also a larger bearing. This particular link sees the most amount of pressure when the suspension is cycled. A larger bearing can handle larger loads and also allows the front suspension system not to bind when it's under full compression. So the suspension system moves much smoother. The rebound action will be more consistent. We went to alloy hardware instead of steel, so it's lighter, but it has the same strength as the steel bolts that we were using before. One thing you'll notice underneath, again, the same philosophy with less parts, less problem. The lower link has now is a forged one-piece design. Also, the pivot bearings are on the outermost position. These hardware are now alloy as well. On the rear end of the bike, the top and bottom yokes are now forged instead of CNC like the older model. We were able to gain more mud clearance on the rear yoke and on the top yoke. We also went to box chain stays for torsional stiffness and side-to-side loads. The rear end on this new rip is 50% stiffer than the old rip. The bottom bracket is 55% stiffer than the old rip, and it's 70% stiffer at the head tube. So huge design changes. The bike only gained 2 ounces of weight with all the increased stiffness. On the rear end, we have forged dropouts now instead of CNC. Again, much stronger and lighter. At the same time, we've introduced these 2 dropout plates that can be replaced, so the left-hand drive can be adopted for a Maxwell system, 12 mil through axle, QR, or you can also put a roll-off hub. We'll have a special dropout for roll-offs as well. So the frame will be available in December of this year. We'll also have it available as a frame and fork kit, so you can buy the frame and the fork, Fox fork available with it as well. Here we have the 809 for 2009. Changes on the bike are colors. This will be available in the blue, raw, and Kermit green color. The bottom chain stays have been widened slightly to allow for slightly more tire clearance. Also, all of the bikes, all the manufacturers are moving to a 44 offset on their rake. So all the new bikes will have slight design tweaks to accommodate the new 44 offset rake. So small little changes, but again, ride quality is critical to us, and we want to make sure that the bikes have the same handling feel as the bikes that we've been producing before. So now that all the manufacturers are sort of tied into this 44 millimeter rake, we've adopted that across our entire line. Another new innovation from Niner this year is our new EBB system. We call it Biocentric. Steve came up with this idea about a year ago, and I was really resistant to the idea because our current EBB system, we have so few problems that changing the system around to solve a very small minority of problems seemed like a large risk to take. But again, less parts, less problems. This EBB system is now just 3 pieces, down from 5 on our current EBB system. One thing we noticed from our racers when they were changing gears quite a lot is that a set screw was causing a lot of divots along the EBB shell, and sometimes you would find slippage. Also, people that were over-torquing the set screws were ovalizing the bottom bracket slightly. So this system uses a clamp design, and basically it fits inside the frame, and you tighten it. This is on the non-drive side. You tighten this bolt, the 2 halves come together. This sleeve basically compresses along the bottom bracket shell. The nice thing about it, once that happens, the entire shell is now sealed from the elements. Water and dirt have a very hard time finding their way into the shell, especially on the contact surfaces where that's going to cause the most amount of creaking. So with this system, you don't have any problems with divots, obviously, because the pressure point is evenly dispersed around the entire edge of the EBB shell. Another thing is it's been scalloped away so that you can apply an outboard bearing, and it's already pre-faced, so it's perpendicular to the threads, so you have very long bearing life. The system, again, we were very careful about making this change, and we spent a lot of time developing it. We've had 3 of our pro racers riding on the system now for over 8 months, and we have 7 other test riders in different areas of the country that have been riding it in absolutely no problems. So we feel very confident changing this system. The nice thing about it is this particular EBB will be retrofittable onto all of our older frames. All you'll do is take out the older EBB, pull the set screws out, fill the holes up with silicone, and reinsert this, install your bottom bracket, and you're good to go. This will be available in different colors. We'll have it in black, silver, red, and blue currently, and we'll have these available probably in November. All of our new 1.9 frames and steel Sir9 frames will come stock with this new EBB system installed. The EBB will be black on all our stock frames. So I know we're going to get tons of questions, but no, unfortunately, it will not be retrofittable into other frames that we know of. The main reason is that we make a custom shell that has what's called a larger throw. A lot of systems, when you move the bottom bracket 180 degrees, they don't move a full chain length, so a lot of systems won't allow, some gearing won't work. But our system is over a link's worth of length, so when you move this is over one chain length. So no other system that we know of around has this much throw, but this allows you to use any gearing selection you want with our current system. Thanks for visiting our virtual booth. We wanted to say thank you to all the riders, readers, and posters especially that talk about our bikes. And you know, guys, go out, have a good time and ride. Please remember to support IMBA and all their causes. Without IMBA, we don't have trails to ride.